Just as a heads up, this week gets pretty in the weeds philosophically. So if you're prepared for that, then let's begin. So week 5 is about recovering a sense of possibility. It's about thinking bigger. What are my biggest ideas and ambitions? What am I holding myself back from because I think I don't have the resources, like time, money, audacity, whatever that may be? It was about learning to trust our creative self, our spirit self, rather than outside sources to accomplish the things that we want to do. Julia says, very often, when we cannot seem to find an adequate supply, it is because we are insisting on a human source of supply. I think supply here can mean several things. Mostly, I think the human supply is about like outside validation, only like not getting inspiration from within yourself, but getting it on the outside and like physical resources. Julia is saying that we rely too much on these things to guide us, and it's no wonder we feel dried up because these things are not unlimited like our spirit self is. We're relying on something from outside of us to guide our creativity, when all we need in order to accomplish our artistic goals is the creative spirit self within. However, people want to orient themselves around this idea of like the inner river, the well, whatever it is, I see it as our spirit self. We have our physical self, which is our body, our experiences in this world. But then we have our spirit self, the way our existence interacts with other planes of reality that we can't see. The part of ourself that can't be seen, but it can be talked to or kind of tapped into. So for me, like that's the part of me that communicates and receives messages from ancestors, spirits, deities, Abba Benili, all those things. I think some people, definitely like reading the book, I feel like some people can start to get lost around here because it starts to get very out there in terms of talking about spirituality. But I think at the very beginning of the book, Julia is like, whatever this means for you, like find something in this, like find some way that this works for you. And I can only explain it in the way that I understand it, which is through the spirit self. And this is going to be different for everybody, but that's the way I understand it. Julia says we must learn to let the flow manifest itself where it will, not where we will it. If we are tapped into the unlimited spirit self, then we'll have infinite guidance and inspiration. If we rely too much on controlling things in the physical, our inspiration will always inevitably dry up. I'm not saying that we're not getting inspiration from the physical world. Obviously, we are physical beings and we're gonna get inspired by the physical world. Most of my art is a direct result of what I see around me. But my take on letting my spirit self guide my creation rather than the physical world is more that I do what I feel myself most pulled towards rather than what it is like other people think a drag queen should be or a drag queen should do. Instead of physical human standards, I rely on my own inner judgment to decide what I need to do, to what I need to pull out of the river and what I need to turn into something physical. Like, I've had this like weird hang up about like, oh, like I'm going to be like a YouTuber drag queen, or like, you know, someone who does stuff on the internet. And I feel like sometimes like internet queens kind of get a bad rap. They're like, "Oh, well, like she can't perform or she can't do this and that." Which obviously I know that I can do those things, but like I said, I'm leaning into like, what do I keep getting called to like over and over again? What like what is inspiring me from within, not what I think I should be doing. This whole like metaphor and everything reminds me a lot of David Lynch talking about the river or ocean of ideas. So he says that ideas are like fish. A chef isn't credited with making the fish. The chef is credited with preparing the fish, and that is what our role is as artists. We don't make the ideas, we catch them and prepare them and present them. We sit by the creative river with our lines cast. We catch the ideas that come by, and it's our job to prepare them in order to accomplish personal spiritual nourishment, and also to spiritually nourish the people that we share it with. If we see a huge fish coming, one that we think like, no way can I catch that, or even if I do catch it, I have no idea how to cook it. I have no idea how to prepare it. This fish, this idea is like too big for me. It's too ambitious. I think what Julia's trying to say, and I think, you know, it's our duty then to have faith in ourselves that if we see that particular fish coming at us, then it is our responsibility to catch it and prepare it, you know, even if it's hard. Our spirit self and the spirit selves of others rely on us learning how to prepare that idea. I think this is a great way to talk about how creativity is communal and how art connects us spiritually to our own and the humanity of others. In this way, we have to learn to trust the flow instead of trying to bend the river to our will, which is impossible. And of course, it's going to leave us feeling exhausted because you can't control nature. Did any of that make sense? Julia says dependence on the creator within is really freedom from all other dependencies. When we learn to trust that the river will provide the fish and all we need to do is catch the fish and figure out a way to prepare it, then we're not going to be relying on anything else except for catching those ideas. Obviously, a big issue with this is that capitalism doesn't want to allow us to create in this way. Capitalism doesn't want us to create for spiritual fulfillment at all. Like the way that we're socially set up, the way that we live is antithetical to the natural creative impulses of humans. Artists are told that art is frivolous, self-indulgent, and basically, like, unless you're rich, art is a useless endeavor and we need to spend our time being productive. And this kind of made me think, like, even political movements that are supposedly against capitalism can behave this way. What are you doing for the party or the people or whatever? Stop wasting time creating and start putting in the work. What people who act this way don't understand is that art is an essential part of being against capitalism. It's literally reclaiming your time and your attention. It's spiritually nourishing yourself and those around you, which is essential for people to feel empowered to fight capitalism. And I think many political movements are spiritually dead. And I think that that's a huge issue. It's not just political movements, though. It's the way that we behave socially day to day that also kills our creativity. And Julia calls this the virtue trap. So she says, many of us have made a virtue out of deprivation. We strive to be good, to be nice, to be helpful, to be unselfish. We want to be generous, of service, of the world. But what we really want is to be left alone. She says that withdrawal from family, friends, partners is an essential part of our creativity. We have to have downtime. We have to have time to do nothing. And she argues that this is something we need to defend as much as we can, because if we don't, we start to abandon ourselves. And, the less we defend that time to ourselves, I think the more like capitalism and like the urge to be a consumer like creeps and seeps into our lives. We want to be left alone, but if we can't get people to leave us alone, we start to abandon ourselves. Afraid to appear selfish, we lose ourself. We worry about what other people will think or what will happen to them if we do what we really want. We lose this true self. And the true self, she says, is a disturbing character, healthy and occasionally anarchistic, who knows how to play, who knows how to say no to others and yes to itself. And it's interesting because I think under capitalism, we have this weird paradox when we're like, we need to be as selfish and individualistic as possible while also depriving ourselves of any creative fulfillment in the name of productivity. Like, okay, you need to be like a selfish, like individualistic consumer that's like very self-centered, but at the same time, you need to think communally about like production for other people. Like, think of your team at work or crap like that. Or like I start to talk about how the nuclear family has a lot to do with this, because we don't live communally. We're bound to the nuclear family unit. And this unit is the training ground in which people are taught to abandon themselves in favor of serving capital. So it's about like, either it's about like, oh, like your team at work, or, oh, like you need to be productive for your family. And what that job is dependent on like your assigned role in the patriarchy. And through this nuclear family, we're taught to live in accordance with that assigned role within patriarchal structures. And we're taught to ignore our true self in favor of our role in capitalism, which is never being an artist, by the way. Especially if your line of people has been poor or disenfranchised, imprisoned, or enslaved for many generations. And so, because of all this, either we're bound to our job or our nuclear family. We are somehow always bound to creating or being productive or using our time and our energy for other people. We give up our true desires in order to survive. We're all forced to compete for resources that without capitalism would be freely given to us by the earth. We get that practical job even if we want to act or paint or whatever it is. Even as someone that has to work a job, this week I was like, I'm done letting capitalism or the bounds of the nuclear family like leech away all the free time that I have. Like I said, like I have to defend it, or capitalism will like leech it all away if I don't defend it. And in this world that we live in, it takes courage to guard this precious time to ourselves. It takes some plotting, it takes some scheming to carve out that time for ourselves, which at times will mean that we have to step back from other people as well. And I think that can be a good thing. I also thought through this reclaiming and by listening to my creative self. And I think it's funny that Julia says that self is like anarchistic, because it's true, because by doing this, I am enacting the anarchist principle of complete personal autonomy, which to many may come off as selfish, but to others, my creativity is also spiritual nourishment. The amazing thing is that in reclaiming my personal autonomy and healing and calling in my spirit self, I'm also helping other people hear and heal their spirit selves as well. Like, nothing about this actually is individualistic if we think about it in this way. Really cool. So as you can see, I've made a lot of progress on the negative core belief that truly letting myself create what I want and trusting my spirit is too selfish. I feel like my river is finally flowing again. Like, the sediment, the pollution is clearing away, and I'm getting the fish. I'm getting the ideas, because for so long, the thing of like ideas spontaneously popping into my head was gone for so long. But lately it's started to happen again, which has been really cool. I'm learning to trust that I can learn how to prepare these big fish that come along if I just keep listening. And it's like that quote from last week or a couple weeks ago, where I've seldom hatched a delicious plan without being given the means to accomplish it, or something like that. It really is like that. For my artist date this week, I just went to the library and I grabbed some books that just looked immediately interesting to me. And I went through them. I took some notes. I made some scans of some cool art that I saw in there, which I'll include pictures of. I learned about multimedia collage and creative ways to use found objects to make art. I'm really into making trash into art, and waste into art. So that was a good little time for me. I've been letting my artist date happen kind of like intuitively. And so instead of like going into the week being like, okay, this is what my artist date is going to be this week, I kind of just let the week happen. And like by the time Saturday comes, I know what it's going to be, because like just something weird happens in my life, or like someone I know like suggests something to me and I'm like, well, that sounds perfect. So that's been cool, because then I feel like it's really related to like what I've been chewing on and like thinking about that week. Next week is about recovering a sense of abundance, which will probably be interesting because I'm pretty weird about money. I think everyone is. But it'll be good to get into the details, like be forced to actually articulate why I'm weird about money. I also just wanted to say thank you to anyone who's following along. I've had some people tell me that watching me like just make these like video diaries that are really just for myself to like track my progress, but that it's also helped them. And it's great to see in real time how the creative recovery of one person it's still a communal thing, like I was talking about. Like, if I am getting that spiritual nourishment and I'm showing it and presenting it to other people, then they're also spiritually nourished. And that is how art is communal. And that's how art is healing communally and collectively. It's really cool. Healing is a communal act, even if it's something that we're told is selfish, which is really convenient for the capitalists if you think about it. Something to think about. Until next time.